Okay, I don't know how successful this is going to be as an exercise. I just want to pass on some wisdom in the hope that it helps somebody else. The one thing I've noticed about the decline of any relationship, and I'm thinking specifically of a marital relationship, but I think it's what I'm about to say is of a wider application, is that you need to appreciate the difference between gifting and compensating. If somebody loves you, they give. And the person who makes a gift doesn't quantify or feel the loss of that gift. They want to bring that thing to you. And the only lament a true giver has, is that they can't give you more. But they're giving you everything they have. And that is a similar mindset to, if you're of a religious mind, it's a similar mindset to the parable of the widow's mite, where Jesus is watching people put money into a collection box, and what he notices is people put in, wads of change in and things like that, and then he sees this widow shuffle up to the box, take out her last 2 coins and put them in the box. And he says to his disciples something along the lines of, who's given the most here? And he identifies that she's given the most because she's given all that she has. That's gifting. There's an advert currently running on the television where I think it's a McDonald's advert, where a mother gives her son her old car because that's the most she can give him. She can't give him more than that because she can't afford it. But she can give him a car and that she owns, that she no longer needs, or that she can find she can find alternative transport. I don't know, whatever it is. And at first he's like, oh God, but then he realizes that she's given everything she has, and that is a true measure of gifting. So then he drives home with a much better attitude. That's gifting. Compensating is when the person who doesn't love you decides that they don't want to lose you, but at the same time, because you're still useful in some regard, but they don't want to give you any more. So what they do is they compensate for what they're not able to give you. Now that compensation can take a variety of forms. It can be that they perhaps distract you with something. Maybe you get a little bit more sex than normal, or maybe they do little gestures for you and things. But the reality is that if you actually quantify and look at what they're doing, they're not giving you very much at all. What they're doing is compensating you for what they're not giving. Now, when you think in those terms, you realize the decline in your relationship, because once the gifting goes and the compensating moves in, you're then in a situation where you're just counting the time down to the end of your marriage, because the way the decision-making process of somebody that's fallen out of love with you goes is the gifting goes first because they don't love you, so they don't want to give you anything. So they compensate you. And that compensation becomes ever less because they resent the amount of compensation. So the first decision is to compensate you. Then they start thinking, I don't want to compensate you this much because it's a chore, because it's conflicting with other things I've got on. And then eventually it becomes, I don't want to compensate you at all. And then that's where resentment comes in, because they resent the fact that they've compensated you, that you've had all this compensation from them, because they start to think, well, look at all the compensation I've given you, and what have I got out of it? And what they don't realise is that compensation is not There shouldn't even be a consideration of what they got out of compensation, because compensation was already shortchanging you. But that's not how they think. That's not how they think. This is my thoughts for today.